Hello everyone, thanks for joining on video 3 of this Mental Health Awareness Week series. My name is Sasheen Kolakut. Yesterday in video 2, I had spoke about how fear and trauma is created in the most common types of abuse, which are 6 different types. Today's video, I'm going to discuss the changes that have been going on with the government and Supreme Court behind closed doors to further their control agenda. And these new developments must be discussed so that people are aware and so we can put an end to this once and for all and work together. As I have worked in the mental health field for over 16 years, I've worked with various clientele who were struggling with a variety of issues. My training is applied psychology and counseling, as well as holistic mental health coaching, as well as psychoneuroimmunology and neuroscience, which will be in tomorrow's video. While I'm about to tell you something that's going to seem very concerning, I want you to remember the reasons why I'm doing these videos is to make people aware so we can all stand up against this. We can stand together and we can support each other during these times of unknowns, turbulence, and chaos. There is strength in numbers, so the more people that are aware of what's happening, the harder and the stronger we can be to fight back. There are more citizens in Canada that have the ability to and the obligation to overthrow these tyrannical governments and these dictatorships. So the first topic I'm going to touch on is the bill that was just recently passed, and I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it is called Bill 15, and that was recently passed in Quebec. The government just went ahead and passed the bill, just like they did with the Indigenous in Bill C-15, to place the Indigenous children in residential schools. So now they're coming for all children. This bill was recently passed to remove parental rights to decisions regarding their children without due process of a fair trial. So this gives full rights of authority to the state and no longer of the parents. This means they can decide what's in the, quote, best interests of anyone's child in the name of youth safety. This is a dysfunctional undermining of all parents in Quebec and will soon be all over Canada. You need to also understand what's happening in the education system. They are grooming the children for their transgender agenda and pedophilia purposes through planting seeds of confusion about their gender, funding universal washrooms, which would put our kids at risk of sexual abuse by adults and older children, as well as planting subtle seeds through inappropriate stories or music and their curriculum of what they consider to be sex education. So currently in Quebec now, they are apprehending children for whatever reasons they choose, soon to be under the Mental Health Act, as they are already apprehending them through the Ministry of Children and Families, which is extremely traumatizing to children to be pulled out of their environments, especially from their parents, and handed to the care of strangers. So that is one thing that has recently passed. The next one I'm going to touch on, and I'll tell you how they're all related here pretty soon, is the changes to the criminal code. So in February of 2015, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that parts of the criminal code would need to change. The parts that prohibited medical assistance in dying would no longer be valid. The Supreme Court gave the government until June 6, 2016 to create a new law because they apparently think they have the power to just write whatever laws they want, and there you go, which is why we can't fight them within the system, because if we try to fight the system within the system is built to keep us out and to stop us from fighting them, which is why we have to just create our own new parallel and or new community and society completely. So, Part 3 of the Mental Health Act, Section 30, is called Detention under Criminal Code, which states a person who, under the criminal code, is found not criminally responsible on account of a mental disorder, or is found unfit on account of a mental disorder to stand trial, and who is ordered to be detained in a provincial mental health facility must receive care and treatment appropriate to the condition of the person as authorized by the director. So, the Mental Health Act currently, if you are unaware, which most people are, simplified, it applies to anyone who is deemed mentally unstable. They can be involuntarily admitted against their will and taken to psychiatric facilities for treatment. This can include people who are a harm to themselves or others, such as in the case of aggressive tendencies and or suicidality. Anyone who works in the mental health field is aware that a person who has admitted to harming another or is threatening to harm themselves can be involuntarily admitted and detained for up to 48 hours, and this can include police involvement in that apprehension. However, upon further assessment by the director of a designated facility, they have the ability to transfer a patient to a provincial mental health facility and given treatment for up to 30 days or longer. Mental health diagnoses includes everything from anxiety, depression, PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar, ADHD, and so on. Let me explain now, however, how this Mental Health Act is being manipulated to use against people, as it is going to relate to medical aid in dying, and that is called MAID. For your knowledge, on my blog page, when I post this, I will have the links to all of these acts. So the Mental Health Act, the medical aid in dying information, and the Bill not C-15, but the Bill 15 that's passed in Quebec. All these links will be included, so you can also check that out for yourself. So, MAID was passed originally specifically for patients who chose doctor's assistance in dying to avoid suffering based on their physical diagnosis, and it was exclusive to health issues like terminal cancer, Parkinson's, ALS, and so on. Now we're learning, though, that there are cures for a lot of these things, so it just makes you realize how much we have been unaware of all of the cures and all of the things that we have been able to actually do for ourselves, but those things have been suppressed, and so this is why I feel it is very important that people know there are cures and there are ways out of these things, whether it's physical pain, chronic issues, mental health issues, whatever it is. A lot of times it's nutritional. So I'll carry on. In February of 2015, the government took it upon themselves to amend the criminal code so they could include mental health issues, which includes anyone who is diagnosed now, even by a physician or a nurse, whether you agree with that diagnosis or not. So to be clear, they are going to start apprehending people of all ages at a physician's mental health diagnosis to be euthanized against their will for having someone's version or diagnosis of a mental health issue. And this will begin taking effect in March of 2023. Did you know that the German government, prior to World War II, legalized doctor-assisted euthanasia? So history is repeating here now. Imagine being portrayed as a danger to yourself and others for not getting a medical experiment and an injection that we know has an intention of genocide. One of the quotes that I will share from the MAID document is this, and it is about mental illness and MAID. After March 17th of 2023, people with a mental illness will have access to MAID if they meet all eligibility requirements. If you have a mental illness along with other medical conditions, you may be eligible to seek MAID. However, you will be able to seek MAID if you just have a mental health illness. And of course, my concern is that as they are diagnosing now people who have adverse reactions from these injections, they're now being diagnosed as having anxiety and things like that. So this is already happening. And so we need to understand that any of these labels can and will be used against us in the future. So trying to get away from that, away from identifying with a label. We're all struggling in some way, and we can just deal with that and help each other through it. We don't need a label to know that we're struggling and that we're suffering. So, um, most of us do know people with a mental health issue, either friends, family, even sometimes ourselves, because statistics show that 1 out of 3 Canadians will struggle with one in their lifetime. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I certainly don't think it's okay for somebody to make an assumption about your wellness or your illness while they get to act against you based on their judgment. That puts everybody at extreme risk, and this can be used for discriminatory purposes, and I have seen it very much in the mental health field, how people are discriminated against, how they are victimized, and continually are victimized with these systems. So what can we do? Well, we have to stand up against this tyranny so they know we will not comply and we do not consent to what they are doing. We can form homeschooling pods and get the children into them and out of the school system, or we can homeschool children. You can homeschool them on your own, create communities that maybe you can take turns homeschooling children on certain days. There's many creative ways we can figure this out. Education is no excuse to put your children in harm's way. Just like taking an experimental medical injection is not worth harming your health over, just to comply, to follow the rules. We have to be in the way of these children being taken from their families and being taken from our community members. Keep connecting to others as much as possible and start building the strongest community bonds where we can all work towards assisting each other through this. Together, we can resist and fight all of these tyrannical rules without violence, just making sure that we are heard and that we are hearing each other. Remember, I'm okay and you're okay, and together we will heal. These are the elephants in the room for today, and please follow up tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much for watching.